If you asked most Americans, they would say that they live in a democracy. But when it comes to electing the President of the United States, they would be wrong. Currently, as it stands, our president is selected by around 270 people in a system that we call the Electoral College. This system has had its benefits in the past, but as we continue to advance with technology and get smarter as a society, it has become outdated. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how the Electoral College has become outdated and why we would need to switch to a popular vote system. Right now, most citizens of the United States believe that we are voting based on a one-person, one-vote system. But when it comes to the general election, electing our president, it is not the case. We, as citizens of the United States, uphold the notion to protect the identity of democracy in our country, even though the Electoral College does not allow us to have a true vote in the election. The purpose of the Electoral College has been outlived. It does more harm than it does good at this point. The Electoral College has served an important role in the history of the United States. It helps simplify the process of electing a president when it needed to be simplified. Back in the day when we first became a country, it would have been nearly impossible to vote by popular vote. That's because they didn't have the technology to vote by popular vote. So they chose to give each state a specific number of electoral votes according to the population size of that state. Counting the votes on a state level instead of doing it at a national level made it easier for all of the votes to be counted. This system makes it so that it's less likely for a miscount to happen and easier to do a recount if necessary. The Founding Fathers valued education, and they wanted to ensure that the President of the United States was elected by educated individuals and that they themselves were educated. They did not want the role of president to be given to someone who is not educated or qualified. The Electoral College was created as a safeguard to protect the identity of the office. Nowadays, we have lots of advantages in technology. Due to our advances in technology, we have demolished the relevancy of the Electoral College. It is no longer needed in today's day and age. Technology allows us to more easily count votes and count them quicker. The United States claims to be a country of the people, but in 5 elections, the people say has been ignored when it comes to electing a president. For example, in 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular votes by about 3 million votes, meaning that more people voted for Hillary Clinton than for any other losing candidate for president. That needs to change. As for needing educated voters, we as a people have become more educated than the generations before us. The Reed Center stated that in 1776, only 50% of women in New England could read, and that number goes even lower when you look at the southern United States during that time. If the United States functioned by popular vote, candidates would have to change their tune when vying for votes. Currently, as it stands, candidates visit a select few states. The states that they spend their majority of their time in are called swing vote states. These states include Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Because of the system, Trump and Biden currently spend most of their attention and most of their media buy on these states. If we switched to vote by popular vote, The candidates would have to spread their attention across more, if not all of the states, instead of focusing on just the few states that have a swing vote. The candidates would focus more on swing populations in each state rather than swing states. With the Electoral College, if you are a Democrat and you are living in a Republican state, you really don't get a say. Your vote doesn't matter as much as a Republican vote in that state. And vice versa. A Republican in a Democratic state has less say in the election than a Democrat in that state. A one person, one vote functions under the belief that every person's vote counts, not just the state that you live in's majority. Smaller states who do not have as big of a population, especially ones that cannot sustain House seats, they are guaranteed at least 3 electoral votes. This gives the citizens in that state more power than they deserve. For example, in the 2016 election, each electoral vote in Wyoming represented about 72,000 people, whereas in California, one electoral vote represented 270,000 voters. This means that Wyoming citizens got 4 times the poll than California citizens in the election. States across the country also have laws regarding the Electoral College. These rules and regulations are not consistent across the country. 21 states have 0 laws that compel the electors to vote the same way as the majority. In 48 states, a winner-take-all system has been enacted when electing the president, meaning that the minority parties in these states do not have an impact on the presidential election. A democracy is run by the people, but if we can't run the government or even vote for the head of state, this country cannot in good faith call itself a democracy. The way things are, we allow a small group to have control over our country. This is ensured by the implementation of the Electoral College. The Electoral College was created for a purpose and for a time and place where it was understandably needed. However, we have never truly voted as individuals, only as political parties within a system. We have outgrown any reason for the Electoral College. With our technology today, we can do recounts for the votes very easily. The Electoral College does not allow for citizens to have a say in the national government and hinders democracy. This system mutes thousands of voters every election year. Ultimately, the Electoral College damages what we believe to be a functioning democracy, and it's time for that to change. The Electoral College has played its part in our history, but now is the time to diminish it, as it has no legitimate purpose in today's world.